Socio-cultural perspectives on learning. Socio-cultural perspectives can be described as a way of learning and understanding human behaviour and personality development by examining social groups in which the individual is a member. Throughout this podcast, we will look at the history of Vygotsky's socio-cultural theory, followed by different features of it, including scaffolding and the zone of proximal development. Finally, we will look at the work of Bronfenbrenner and the implications of his work. The history of Vygotsky's socio-cultural theory. Lev Vygotsky is one of the main theorists associated with socio-cultural perspectives on learning. He studied law in Moscow University, however, he always had an interest in psychology. Although he had no formal training, he was considered an educational psychologist. He died of TB in 1934, and although the government dismissed his ideas, his students always kept them alive. After the Cold War, his ideas began to emerge and his socio-cultural theory became more prominent. The socio-cultural theory is the idea that learning and development depends on the interaction with the world around you. It is a combination of the social environment and cognition. In simple terms, Vygotsky believed that children learn from the community and culture around them. For example, parents, peers, and the overall culture interact with the child. They see the way these people act around them and they imitate this behaviour. This is known as imitative learning. Another way children learn is instructed learning, where they remember a teacher's instructions and use this guidance in order to carry out tasks. The final one is known as collaborative learning. This is where a group of peers work together to learn a specific skill, while also wanting to understand each other. Vygotsky wrote in the book Thought and Language that human mental activity is the result of social learning. Two of the most significant features of Vygotsky's socio-cultural theory are scaffolding and the zone of proximal development.
The zone of proximal development is a phase at which a student can master something new when given appropriate help and support. Vygotsky's zone of proximal development is defined as the distance between the actual developmental level as determined by independent problem solving and the level of potential development as determined through problem solving under adults' guidance or in collaboration with more capable peers. Developmental psychologist Kathleen Berger calls this area the magic middle, somewhere between what the learner already knows and what the learner isn't yet ready to learn. A task given within this so-called magic middle is difficult enough so the student is challenged and not bored, but not so difficult that the student feels like a failure.
When it came to how students learn and develop best, Vygotsky believed that cognitive development in children occurs through conversations and interactions with more experienced individuals, i.e., family members, teachers, and peers. Vygotsky stated that a child follows an adult's example and gradually develops the ability to do certain tasks without any help or assistance. The American psychologist Jerome Bruner referred to this support as scaffolding, literally meaning a temporary framework, like one used in constructing a building. As part of this process, the supporting individual assumes a consciousness for two, and therefore thinks for both themselves and for the learner. These individuals provide the aid and guidance necessary for the child to grow intellectually. From this perspective, learning is like assisted performance. Let's look at an example of how scaffolding works. Take a person who is learning how to drive, for example. This person takes driving lessons each week with a driving instructor, i.e., a more experienced individual. In the beginning, the learner struggles to carry out all of the elements of successful driving at the same time. The driving instructor scaffolds the learner by keeping a watch on the mirrors, while the learner concentrates solely on the road ahead of them and on the physical act of driving. After a number of lessons, the learner becomes more experienced and confident, and is eventually able to look in the mirrors and drive at the same time, without the help of the instructor. A teacher carries out a similar role to the driving instructor within the context of the classroom, enabling students to successfully understand new concepts on their own. Now let's look at another socio-cultural theory of learning.
Ecological systems theory. Yuri Bronfenbrenner, a Russian-born American developmental psychologist, is known for his own ecological systems theory of the child. It is used to show how the process of human development is shaped by the interaction between an individual and his or her own environment. The microsystem refers to the institutions and groups that most immediately and directly impact the child's development. In the case of a young student, these can include the student's family at home, teachers and peers in school, and other people in environments that the student has direct interaction with, such as instrumental music lesson where the student interacts with their tutor. The mesosystem refers to the interactive nature of different aspects of the student's microsystem. These could be interactions between the student's teachers and their parents, or their friends and family. The exosystem refers to the interactions between the student's mesosystem and an external setting with no direct interactions with the child themselves. This could involve a parent's interaction with their work environment, where the parent may possibly receive a job that involves moving. These interactions may have a knock-on effect on the child and/or their home environment. The macrosystem refers to the culture or other social context in which the student lives. These encompass whether the country they live in is developed or developing, the socio-economic status of the student, poverty and ethnicity. Each cultural group shares a unique common identity and values. However, these can change with each subsequent generation. In a culture affected by poverty, the opportunities available to the student could be limited. This affects the student's microsystem directly or indirectly. The chronosystem refers to environmental events or transitions that may occur over the life of the student. It is directly related to the timing of the event in the student's life. For example, the effect of a big event, such as a divorce, will affect a young child differently than a teenager. It may also relate to socio-historical circumstances, such as increased opportunities for women over the course of the 20th century.
Implications for practice. Bronfenbrenner saw development psychology as the science of the strange behavior of children in strange situations with strange adults for the briefest possible periods of time. Bronfenbrenner believed that the most destructive forces to a child's development are the instability and unpredictability of family life, which is the key part of their microsystem. This is largely influenced by our economy, which falls under the macrosystem, mesosystem, and exosystem. If relationships in the child's microsystem, such as their family or school environment, break down, then the child will not be sufficiently able to interact with the other environments that they are a part of, such as their macro, meso, exo, and chronosystems. If there is a breakdown in their immediate environment, children will often look for affirmations in inappropriate places or ways. The negative implications for education is that in adolescence, this may appear as antisocial behavior, lack of self-discipline, or an inability to self-direct. So the question arises, will the education system be able to accommodate and make up for these behaviors? It seems that although the primary relationships in a young person's life need to be with someone who can provide a sense of caring that will ideally last a lifetime, it is becoming increasingly important for schools and teachers to provide young people with stable, long-term relationships as well.
In conclusion, through our examination of the various socio-cultural perspectives on learning, we have seen how a young person's development is greatly affected by their personal interaction with the world around them. We have discussed Vygotsky's socio-cultural theory, the zone of proximal development and scaffolding, as well as Bronfenbrenner's ecological social system theory. They have granted us a greater understanding of how children develop and are shaped by their individual experiences growing up. The primary contributing factors of which are environment, life experiences, and people whom one encounters, including friends, family, and peers. As future teachers, we believe it is important for us to be aware of how and why our students are different. It is also our responsibility to understand, respect, and aid our students where possible with the challenges that they face throughout their development. We also look forward to using our newfound awareness and understanding of the socio-cultural perspectives on learning as we embark on our teaching careers.